So what we're talking about here is that it's about going deeper into oneself. It's about examining, assessing oneself, looking at how and who we are, and how is it that we can become a better uh, version of ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And every second, next day, we're talking about becoming better than who we were the previous day. That's one of the quotes. And the second quote that I would want to talk about here is from that of Master Gichin Funakoshi. He's one of those, I wouldn't say founding masters, but he's those who brought karate to the mainstream. So karate, as we know, it originated on the Okinawan island, and from there it was brought to mainland Japan. He's one of those who originally was instrumental in popularizing karate, making it a part of the mainstream, and establishing it as a part of the even the school curriculum, so that even students could become stronger. So let's look at the significance of karate from that perspective. And this is something like 100 years old. So he's talking about the ultimate aim of karate being not in victory or defeat, but in the perfection of the characters of its participants. Even at that time, more than 100 years back, we're talking about perfection of character. And my question, thrown open to everybody, is if leadership is not about deep strength of our characters, it's not about character formulation, it's not about actually standing on those strong values on the basis of which character is defined, then what is it really? Because everything else, whether a person is a marketing head or a CEO or somebody else, those are roles that we are playing. And every person can be playing some role or the other in life, which we all do. But then a common thread which runs all across is what is the strength of character that we display in each of those roles. And typically, of course, when we're talking about leadership, it also is about, it goes along three dimensions. We talk about the self as we step into the world of work. The self dimension comes up first. We are individual contributors. Then as we start moving up, the people dimension starts becoming bigger and bigger. As we work with more people, we are leading them, we are working with different stakeholders. And then the third dimension is about the organization. But the interesting part is that when a person reaches that point where you have an impact on the organization, and I'm sure Robin, you would agree on that, we loop back and we talk about leadership again at the self level. Basically, because if my own values, if my own character is not sorted out, the impact that I can have on the organization is huge. Yeah? And it can be either way. It can be a positive impact or it can be a hugely negative impact. So let's look at how karate really ties up with this self and the people dimension. I'm not going to go today more too much into the organization dimension,
Yeah.
but let's look at that, these two. And this is going to be based a lot on my experiences across these 18 years of learning, teaching, working with students, and also being a student myself under my grandmaster and having trained with him, under him for so many times. So now, the first thing what I said about self is about understanding and knowing oneself. So bringing about a deep self-awareness, and this is done through the practice of meditation. Now, one may wonder as to what has meditation got to do with the karate. You know, mostly in the through the media, in the generic terms, karate and most martial arts are construed as something used to fight, something used to win competitions, beat other people. And here we are talking about meditation. Now, if you go into the traditional practice of any of the martial arts, meditation used to be very, very inherent to any martial art form. And as a part of my teaching, my training as well, we practice it regularly. Yeah, so if you ask me, do I meditate regularly? So my practice is something like an hour long meditation every day. And I'm sure I don't have to talk about how meditation helps and what all does it do. There is so much which has been talked about and done globally. More and more people are actually now beginning to follow meditation and the practices.
Yes.
So here, a simple thing that I would want to talk about is how meditation connects the mind with the body, and that is what we aim to do through the practice of the fundamental foundational level of meditation, which is practice in the Zen, the Buddhist way, is watching your breath. We just sit silently and we watch our breath. And interestingly, we do this even at the beginning and at the end of the class. So when I said my thoughts are going to be based on a lot of real life practices that we have in the world of martial arts, this is one practice that we have. That whenever we begin and end a class, we do this short period of meditation, 30 to 45 seconds. We sit before we begin the actual class and at the end of the class. And that's called clearing out. That's called centering. So that as I am moving from one aspect of my life to the next, I cleared out what I had got with me to that point. Let's say I was coming from somewhere else to the class and there was something which happened. Typically, we would carry that in our minds, and the focus is not going to be there completely on the new activity. When
Yes.
you link it to leadership, when we do our meetings, when we do our discussions with people, when we are interacting with the customer, how many times do we really clear out our minds? Yeah.
That's
It is
interesting.
so it is so very important to clear our minds so that any emotions, any feelings that we are carrying out from the previous experience, from the previous interaction, it should not carry through, flow into the next one and
Yeah.
affect it negatively. And I'm sure all of us have had these experiences where a minor accident on the road, it carries with us throughout the day because we have
Yes.
not taken it off our mind,
Yes.
or an argument with somebody, it still carries on our mind. So how
Yeah.
is it that we can practice this, the centering part?
I can vouch for that one.
So yeah, so meditation,
Walking in with that
centering,
baggage.
absolutely. So how do you get rid of that baggage? And of course, here it is short meditation, but it's a continuation of the longer meditation that we do. And it's one of those practices that is inherent to our class system. I mean, the classes that we do.
So,
So
Rahul, if I was to ask you, what are the 4, 5 leadership lessons that you have learned from practicing martial arts for 26 years that you took in your life, in your job, in your career, and now you're as a facilitator, as a coach, you teach it to the corporate guys?
so thanks, Robin. Thanks for asking that and bringing that up.
Because that would be
Uh,
interesting. So, one is meditation,
yeah.
that we must meditate before any important meeting, whether it's inside the office or outside with the external customer. So I think that's very important, because what you said is cleaning out, leave your baggage outside so you walk in clean.
Yeah.
So similarly, what are some other really great leadership lessons that you could share with us?
Absolutely. So let's move ahead. What I would want to bring up next is something quite interesting. Now, this is my grandmaster. I would want to show a short video here just for people to understand who he is, what's his capability like, and why is he really a grandmaster who's known at a global level. So, guys, here goes the video.
Mm,
Okay, thank you.
wow.
So, from breaking mountain rocks with bare hands to catching a naked sword with again his bare hands, that's who he is in terms of his martial arts prowess, and of course there is so much more. But as a human being, then he's so very different from the people that you would normally see, breaking bones and stuff like that. He was also like that at till a certain point of time, and that's the next leadership lesson which actually comes up. So this is a short story which is about what really made him create a different system, found a different system some 44 years back. So as he was teaching the young, able-bodied, strong people, what happened was that one fine day, somebody brought to him a small, frail child who was walking with the help of a walker. And the man said that, please teach him karate. And my grandmaster was shocked because he just didn't know what to do, what to teach this frail child. Because till then he had taught only able-bodied people who knew how to beat others, win competition. But the question that came up to his mind was, now, how do I contribute to this child's life? Is my karate so small, so weak that I cannot do anything for him? I cannot contribute to his life. And that was a kind of a wake up call for him, which made him think deep that why should karate be so limited? Why should my martial art be so confined to just one segment of people? Why
Yeah.
can't it not contribute to many more? So what I'm coming towards is the purpose. So that's the purpose that has driven him for the last 44 years. He founded the organization, spread it across 20 countries, more than 100 branches. And whenever I met him in person and spoken with him, so he's based out of New York, and whenever I met up with him, asked him what made him continue. By qualification, he was an architect from Japan, but he did not practice at all. He continued to carry on with karate. So he says it was a contribution that I made through my art to the lives of people that made me continue, and that's what made him also, you know, uh, create possibilities for contributing to the visually challenged, the physically differently abled, mentally differently abled, and there
Yeah.
are classes which actually happen for all these segments of people.
Mm.
And it's amazing. I would maybe come back onto it in a different context also, but that's what he created. So the leadership lesson that I got from there was living with purpose, and hence when I was looking back at my life 20 years back or 25 years back, defining my purpose, it actually came out to be the same thing, making a contribution to others. So if today somebody asks me, why do you teach karate? And I mean, why did you leave your corporate career? Why do you also do leadership development training? It's the same thread which made me make all these choices. It's
Yes.
about contributing to other people's lives. So let's move ahead for the next one then.
Yes.
Now,
So you talked about. So I just want to recap. So one is meditate before any important meeting. Second is create a purpose and live it.
yeah, the why.
Wonderful.
Why? I think that's a very fundamental question, the why.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the why, not just about myself, the why is also about how is it making a contribution to the wider society or to other people. Okay, so third one, I talked about my grandmaster
Yes.
being who he is, the global authority that he is. Interestingly, he is also a ninth degree black belt for the last 40, I think 8 years now, 48 years out of his 78 years of life. So you can imagine somebody has been there at a certain level. How many of us are actually in 48 or maybe were lived for 48 rather than working for 48? And he has been practicing and teaching the art for the last 67 years. He started at the age of 11. And when we ask him that, why doesn't he go to the 10th Dan, which is like the epitome, the final achievement? So there's an interesting thought that he shares with us. And that is precisely captured on this slide that you see. Keeping a beginner's mind. I'm not an expert yet. I want to keep that possibility open that I'm not an expert yet. There is still more to learn.
Yeah.
So that's the third thing which I learned from my journey, my practice of so many years, and from the example of my grandmaster, that there is always something more. There is something new. There is something different, and uh, and it is quite okay to accept and quite okay to look at things that way. That whatever I'm doing today in my karate, it is far from being complete. There is so much more. There are so many different arts within karate. There is so
Yes.
much more, and then there are so many different arts.
Mm.
So that journey goes on.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have covered a few things on the self dimension.
Yes.
Maybe it'll be good to also kind of go forward into. So there's one more thing which comes to me from a self perspective, and that's about a leader being very humble, living and leading with humility. And I've had that first-hand experience again with my grandmaster. So where, so this is an instance which I've repeated often in my corporate sessions also. That I was visiting New York. I was visiting my grandmaster in the year 2011. So there was a new center which was being opened up. Its grand opening had to happen, and formally I was representing India. At that point of time, then I stayed over after the opening for a few more days for training and generally to spend time with him. So this center is upstate New York, and I was staying in Manhattan. So one had to take a train, an hour-long journey to reach there. And then, of course, I was there, and another of my colleagues from a different country, from Poland, he was there. So our grandmaster suggested that you take a certain train and reach the station, and I'll be there to pick you up. So first we were like, why would you be there to pick us up?
Uh-huh.
And that itself, you can imagine a global grandmaster saying that I'll be there to pick you. We said okay. So then my Poland
Wow.
colleague from Poland, he suggested that let's take an earlier train, because if we
Mm.
take the later train, our grandmaster will need to wait. Let's reach there before,
Uh,
and we can wait. We should not make him wait. So we took that earlier train and we reached 15 minutes earlier than planned. And when he reached, he was completely shocked. He was like, "Did I make you wait?" And for a couple of minutes, he was really perturbed. You could see that he was so much concerned that he made us wait. Somehow the timing was off, or that he did miss the time, or something happened. But when we told him that we decided to come early, he was overjoyed. He was overjoyed, and he was so happy that we even thought that we did not want
uh,
him to wait. And then he took us there. We did the class, and then he took us. I came back all the way from upstate to Manhattan with him. So no air of superiority, position, and all that. Uh, so very humble. So that was one more big experience for me, which was really life impacting. Okay, so let's move ahead to the people dimension, and maybe we can connect it to that part. Uh, this one is also quite important again from a people dimension. Let me go back and play a video again of a set of exercises that we do. It's a complete series of steps that we do.
yeah.
So let's see this one. So another video for you, everybody. These are my students doing a series of actions or techniques called kata. It's a specific kata.
Mm.
Okay, so a question that I ask usually at the end of any such video is, okay, what was the pattern like? What did you see out there? And then, of course, I'm not showing the slide, but our pattern, our model today is different, the chat model that we have. So what we see out there is all the four directions have been covered. People
Yes.
have moved, done something, they have looked in those directions, taken some action, offensive, defensive, in all the directions. And this is what we say, we are developing a 360-degree perspective, 360-degree awareness by practicing these kind of combinations. And most of our combinations, the kata that we have, they actually make us do a similar thing, look and act in all directions along all 360 degree. That's a very powerful one. If you relate it to the corporate life, it's about how is it that we are resolving conflicts? Yeah. So are we taking other people's perspectives in? So when we communicate with people, is it only my perspective, or is it a wider perspective that I'm taking in? And Robin, you yourself come from a corporate training background, that nobody has a complete story by themselves. Everybody has one part of the story, because
Yes.
we are looking at things from our own vantage point. I, as a marketing guy, sales guy, finance guy, I'll be looking at things which are more familiar to me based on
Yes.
my perception. But then the complete story is not really there for us. So
Yeah.
can I develop that orientation that in my mind itself, I look for 360-degree always, because that's what we are programming ourselves to do out here. So if you look at the slide here, I can be placed at the center and I'm looking at 360-degree, or my opponent can be there in the middle and I am attacking the opponent from all 360-degree sides. So that, in any case, there is a 360-degree thing which is there in the mind. There is a possibility that anything can happen from any given
Yeah.
direction. So hence, resolving conflicts is one. Decision making. How do I make decisions in a corporate environment? Again, it's about, am I taking different perspectives in, different dimensions which can be there, different possibilities which can be there? Am I evaluating enough of those? See, we all know that data can never be complete, but am I evaluating enough of those before taking a call, before taking a decision? So that's something which comes up. How do you develop 360-degree awareness? And you involve people as you're working with them. It can be seen from a collaboration perspective also.
That's interesting. You said collaboration, and in the, just earlier you said it could also be your opponent or your competition.
So that's an interesting one. And
Yeah.
so I was coming to that next. That you see a couple of images out here, the bottom ones where I am fighting with somebody. There is
Yes.
a kumite, as we call it, one-on-one fighting. There is one more here, one-on-one fighting, and I'll come back to this yin yang. Now, this is what we were talking about. My opponent is my teacher, and my ego is my enemy.
Yeah.
So this is something that we had pushed out also in our communication. Now, this is quite counterintuitive. How is it possible that my opponent is my teacher? Now, there's a very interesting concept in the world of martial arts. The Japanese word for a block is uke. But uke, when translated into English as block, is a kind of a misnomer. Because in Japanese, we are not saying block as in stop. In Japanese, uke, the literal translation meaning of uke is receive. It's not to stop.
Not to block, but to receive.
Not to
Okay.
block, but to receive. So when I'm receiving somebody's energy, I'm actually letting it pass by, not to hit me, not to stop it. Because if I am getting hit again, I'm trying to stop it onto my body. I'm allowing it to pass through without actually getting hit. And hence, what I'm doing is I'm receiving from my opponent. And there's another video that I would want to perhaps play for our viewers, our audience here today. And this comes from one of my other senior masters, Suzuki Shan, 7-degree black belt. He also practices Aikido. And Aikido is an art which is based much more on this concept, much, much more. So perhaps we'll not play the full thing, but just look at a snippet of how Aikido really shows that you're receiving energy. I'll just stop here, and you can see how interestingly, whenever somebody is trying to hit you, come at you with an
Just
attack,
move
a
aside.
punch, you're moving aside, you're actually taking his energy and taking him around and throwing him down. And that's the concept. The second concept, even when we are fighting with somebody one-on-one in our practice fighting or in our regular fighting sessions, the opponent is teaching us a lot, because I may get the better of the opponent a few times, or the opponent is helping me see where my strengths are. And similarly, the opponent may get better of me a few times and is showing me where my defense is weak, what part of my actions are not too strong. The opponent may be able to block some of my offensive techniques, and hence, what are my techniques which are really ineffective against a particular type of opponent, maybe because of the size, the speed, and the dynamics that they have. So the opponent is helping me learn a lot, and hence we call them, partners in kumite or partners in those drills, rather than calling them opponents really. While we are fighting with each other, but then there is so much we are learning from each other during those sessions. So that's the other dimension of how the opponent is helping us learn and grow. I'm learning from them. So if you relate it to corporate environment, I'm not saying that our rivals, our competitors in the industry, they are somebody that we should go and embrace every on a day-to-day basis. But then, if we keep this concept in our mind that whatever they are doing well, better than us, there is something to learn from there. I'm sure we would be much more open to learn. And similarly, there would be certain things that we are doing good and perhaps other people are copying. So we need to think as to what is making that happen. How is it that we are able to do those things better? What are our unique strengths which are making that happen? So it's more about creating that mental orientation that, yeah, my opponent gets the better of me in some of these spaces. Maybe product launch, they do much faster always. Maybe they are the first to hit the market, or their customer service is much better. So how come, what are they doing differently? What's really happening in that space? So do I have that orientation, or I just see them as competitors in the same space where they're out to take the market share and kill me out? And hence, from a mindset perspective, I'm not open to learn what's happening there. I think we have.
So now that's really
Yeah,
interesting. You know, all the points that you talked about. So first you talked about that meditate before any important meeting, like kind
yeah,
of empty yourself of anything that's going on in your head. Just leave it outside the door. So you only go with the intent that you're going there for,
true.
whatever your intent is for that meeting. So I'm connecting it to the corporate. So I thought that was very, very good rather than walking in with any baggage. Second, you said create a purpose and live it. Live that because it's a purpose which is your North Star always. Uh,
Absolutely.
um, Years back, I remember one of my coaches that said, never lose sight of your purpose, even if it looks like it's taking you in the opposite direction.
Absolutely.
It might look like, but ultimately it's your purpose. You created it. You knew where you need to go. So stay with the purpose. A third thing also very good. You said that always have a beginner's mind. I think that's very critical because many of us get into this trap of, oh, I have made it. You know, I am there. And my experience and my observation has been the moment you say, I have made it, you're gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Robin, just to add to that, there's a practice that we have in our system where every time somebody goes for a black belt test, and you know that there are 10 levels, every time that
Yes.
somebody goes for a black belt test, it's a month-long test that we do.
Uh,
And the person is supposed to wear a white colored belt during that time, signifying the same thing that you may be getting to an advanced level of black belt, but this white belt shows you, it signifies that you're still learning, you're still a beginner. It does
yes.
not matter how high you go. And if you look at the black belt of advanced practitioners, it has gone through so much of beating that the black uh, cloth actually wears off, and what is inside
Yes.
is again the white,
That's right.
core of the belt.
That's right. That's so beautiful that out there you start again with the white, wear the white. Another point you made is living and leading with humility. The example that you gave of your teacher coming to pick you up. I mean, how
Yeah,
humble can somebody get? So, master coming to pick you up so that you don't get lost.
yeah,
Then 360-degree awareness, all that those kata movements that you showed, that how as a leader one should have a 360-degree awareness. You know what's happening all around, and if you want to take on the competition, you should take it on 360-degree, cover every aspect, don't miss out anything.
yeah.
And the last you said, of course, learn from the competition. I think that's a really big one because normally we think competition is daggers with us. So we always have our daggers open when it's a competition. Maybe learning from the competition could be you could actually be holding hands and sitting down and learning from the competition because like you said they are doing something better than you are doing.
That's very interesting, Robin. I was reading somewhere that the erstwhile rivals like Merckx, Audi, BMWs, they've all come together to fight the onslaught from the people like Tesla because now they
Yes,
know it's a struggle for survival. It's no more
that's right.
about, okay, who's, beating others, but then there is
Yes,
somebody else from outside the industry who's now going to come and beat them.
yes. So now they are together.
Yeah, and
You have to
Tesla is
take
very
on
interesting.
Tesla.
He says, okay, my blueprints are open. You go come and take it. Except for the battery technology, he has made everything else open that you come
Uh,
and take it. I don't
and
mind.
who knows in the future somebody else might come in and Tesla will join Merck and BMW. Let's fight this guy now.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. That work along with your competition, build it. So these are, I think, really, really wonderful lessons
So
that
there
you
are many,
shared.
many more. In fact, many
I'm
more, and
sure.
it's
I'm
a
sure.
long list. So one thing that I would want to close the session with is
Yes.
what is there on the slide. It talks about yin and yang leadership, and I'm sure anybody who's watching this would be curious to know what this is about.
Yeah, I am. Please. I am.
So, so in my experience with my grandmaster, whenever I visited, with the senior masters, also other teachers, senior masters that I've trained under, and what dynamics that I've seen in my class is the experience has been such that you need to be really, really tough for getting the best out of people. Yeah. So my grandmaster, when during my first visit to New York in 2004, I remember he was ruthless in the class, and I actually used the word ruthless because in every way it was ruthless. I was training in the center for 6 hours every day, 2 hours morning, afternoon, evening, and evening could be longer at times. And my body used to be like stiff, stiff like a log of wood. And even then, I continued through a fever, through very cold weather in New York and all that every day for 30 days. For 30 non-stop days, I did that. And he used to be ruthless like anything during the class, pulling legs emotionally, what kind of karate you're doing and all kind of things in front of 60, 70 black belts, that kind of treatment would be there. And I was not able to understand that behavior because coupled with that, he would take me out for meals. He would be very supportive in other ways. He would ensure that I was, taken care of by people from the system, and he would do all those things. I was not able to understand the experience. And at the end of those 30 days, he just said two words: good effort. That was it for those 30 days of getting killed. It was like good effort. I said, oh wow, what happened? And then when I came back after some time, one of my senior most students shared a story with me, a similar story with learning a lesson at the end. The crux was that the master would go around and ignore certain people because he did not see as much inclination, interest, or potential. But with some people, he would push them like anything because he saw potential out there. So bringing these two aspects of the leadership, and if I go to the next slide, you will see this is from my grandmaster. So when my dad passed away in 2006, he got everybody out there in New York to sign on this condolence card, and he sent it across. When my daughter was born in 2014, he sent across a greeting card with these small baby dresses, and this is coming from all the way from New York. This is the same grandmaster who was ruthless in the class, but at his emotional level, he's so very soft and connected with people. So that's the other dimension of people management that I learned from him, the yin yang leadership. You got to be soft where required, you got to be hard when required. Just can't follow one type all the time.
Yeah, that is so wonderful, so wonderful. Now, really, thank you so much for sharing these lessons that you have learned, and you apply these in your day-to-day life, day-to-day work that you do. And like you said, you also share it and teach it in not just in your karate class, but also in the corporate trainings you do, the coaching that you provide to the people at the various levels. So I'm sure it's a very wonderful experience, and all your coaches must be really thrilled to have you as their coach.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, really, thank you. I know it's a Sunday evening, and you took time out to share your learnings. And like you said, there are many, many more, but these six, I think, if we can only practice these six also, that would make a big difference. So everybody else who's watching, if you're watching this recording, obviously you can't ask him a question, but if you're watching this live and you would like to ask Rahul any question, please go ahead. If there's any question you have, even if you're on Facebook and you want to ask any question, just type it there and I'll read it out to Rahul.
So while that happens, Robin, thank you for this opportunity because I have spent my life in this, doing this. This has been really my, you used to call it Karam Bhumi, Dham Bhumi, and all those things. But this is it. This is for me where my life has been spent till now. And for me, it is really exciting to bring these two worlds together because there is so much which is relatable. There is so much to learn either way. And I feel so happy and glad that I'm able to bring this insight about the world of martial arts to a broader section of the society. That is not limited to few people out there. There is so much to learn from there for our lives every day.
Yes, yes, I really love that part. That there's so much to learn and so much to give. So with that, I don't think anybody's asked any question. So Rahul, to close, it's truly been a pleasure to have this chat with you, and maybe some others think sometime in the future. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely,
thank you,
Robin. Thank you.
and thank you, Shailendra. Thank you, Ashwani. Thank you, Chandresh, for being here. And there was Rajesh also. Rajesh, thank you. And will see you around the campus.
And all the people who joined through Facebook, they as well. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everyone who's on Facebook also, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robin, for
Okay.
the wonderful opportunity. It was an evening well spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good
Bye.
night.
Bye. Have a good night, good evening, and good night.